Here we go. Let's talk about your Audio Architect file. First thing you're going to do is just run the NetSetter. If you run NetSetter, you'll be able to give DHCP addresses to your EC8. Same thing with your Blue 100. It'll be able to see your application. You're going to put this on a wireless router of some type and give power over Ethernet to the EC8. You'll open up your iPod or your iPhone. Make sure you've got motion control on your iPhone. Open it up. Make sure it's on the same wireless router as the other gear, and it should appear in NetSetter as well, and it should appear here. And this will be important. You'll see in a second. So anyway, this is what your file looks like. It's the Blue 100 and an EC8. Go over here to audio. This is what's going on in the system. You've got the inputs line left and right come in on analog card A1 and 2, and then the mic 1 and 2 are on 3 and 4, and on the analog input card B it's mic 3. I am having you come in and doing a summer here, so it turns it into mono and keeps it sounding the right way. There's a high pass filter on all the mics. It is set already to 100 hertz. There's parametric EQ that you can adjust how you want. If you hook up a computer and go through that, if you want to there's input and output, you can make it sound different if you want. Add a little boom sizzle, take away some mids, whatever sounds good in the room. On a source, if you want. On a mic, it would be about taking away feedback, getting a little more gain. Anyway, on the compressor, I'm going to go ahead and turn them off. And you can turn them on if you open the software. Copy values, paste values. Okay, so those are turned off now. If you want to set them up with a computer, you can turn a compressor off. One thing I could do to this file if you want is I could also put a mixer in so you could actively mix these inputs, and that'd probably be on an iPad. So the inputs all go to a source matrix. There's the 4 inputs plus pink noise. On the there's a pink noise generator. You're going to use this to set it up, and I'll show you how that works in a second, so that you can set it up without hooking up your computer on the fly. And then there's a speaker selector, so pick among the 4 sources, pick among the 4 speakers. This wire here is not doing anybody any good. It's just that I can't get this to compile green, because the choice for this is you can't just have one output, you have to have 2. Anyway, there's parametric EQ for all the outputs. If the speaker doesn't quite sound good in the room, like I mentioned before, you can do that here. Here's the individual gains, and then overall gain that controls your master volume instead of using a mixer. There's a limiter for all the outputs. I've already set it to plus 4 so that it won't clip the input of your amp. That's about all you need, I think. And then there's some meters here, which could be used if you set it up with a computer. Otherwise, not a big deal. It goes to the output, so here's your output. Analog card D, output 1 is the control 25, then 2 is the control 28, 3 is the control 31, etc. There's a mixer in here that you'll notice, and all this is doing is splitting off all the outputs and putting it into a meter so that the meter on the EC8 can bounce around. And that's pretty much it for the whole file. Let's talk about what the EC8 does. So double click. What the EC8 does is across the on the left is your mic or line source. They're labeled line and mic. On the right here is your speaker selector, and then volume control. That goes back to the N input gain. It's master gain, if you will, without using a mixer. And if you push it, it's a mute, and then I referenced that meter that I just showed you, so this meter will bounce. I've left it straight out of the box. It's red on color, white off color, red label. If you want to get in here in Audio Architect and change it to suit your needs, absolutely do it. So that's the basic user interface here. Walk up to it. On the right, select your source. On the left, select your source. On the right, select your speaker, up and down. Okay, now there's some tricky stuff that I did for an iPhone running motion control. So there's 3 pages, and you're probably going to need to give me a call so that we can put them in your iPhone, because you can't really work with motion control unless you have the device present on the network. So there's a main here. And what main does is simply allows you, without going over to the EC8, is to select your speaker selector, volume up and down, mute, and the source. So I'll put this in soft operate mode, run panel. If you ever get stuck in run panel, you can't make this go away unless you know the key combination. Should you decide to change anything and you right click and go to run panel, you need function, alt, and F4 to close it down. Anyway, so I want to kind of show you what's going on here. So this is my source matrix. As you can see, as I go through, it's changing the sources. So that's my source matrix. And my speaker selector, well, we can't see it. Okay. My speaker selector, if I go here, it's changing the matrix, although we can't see it for reasons. I can't move this. This is one of the dumb things about Audio Architect. You can't move that. Anyway, so that's what's going on in the main page. Kind of the same thing that's going on in the EC8. You could get into the pink noise on the source, and I'll show you how that's important. So second one is input gains. I put meters here. So this is the input gains, so you don't have to get your computer out to set the gains of the SoundWeb. You can do it from here. So these are tied to here and here. Double click that, move it over here, go back to input gains, run panel. So, whoops, you caught me. Run panel, here we go. So this is adjusting the input gains. And then this meter corresponds with that, so you can see how you're doing. All right, so this would be to set up your input gains just so that you know you're getting enough signal into the SoundWeb when you change things around. And then finally, speaker setup. So this is super useful, I think, and I do this when I'm doing demos so I don't have to get my computer going. So there's, over here is the speaker selector. There's a source. The idea with this is that you are able to click through your speakers, the speakers that are connected, go over here to source and go down to pink noise. Pink noise is not available from the EC8, so you can't worry about your customer doing it. But here you can adjust the level of the pink noise, and then you can adjust the level of the speakers. I've had experiences where the Control 25 is much louder than anything else. And this is where you can adjust that. So anyway, that's what's going on. I see a labeling problem that I'm going to fix when you get it. So that's the deal. This is where you'll work on individual output levels, and then you go back to main. And if you use these 3 pages on your iPhone, then you won't have to hook up a computer when it comes time to set the system up. And that is really about it for me. I'm sure we'll be talking about this later, and I'm going to sign off.